I'm Farmer Luke.
Hi everybody, I'm Farmer Clive.
And we're standing in the field of my winter wheat.
And this field of winter wheat was drilled in October and we were planning to hope to harvest it in the middle of August.
As you see, this is the wheat crop as it grows now, and this is the bit that we're after. This bit of the head contains all the grains. So, should we have a look to see how we got to this point?
Right, this is another piece of equipment what we got on the farm for drilling the wheat. It's called a cultivator, more or less, which Greg on best on one, but that's just the make. There's several different versions of this sort of piece of equipment. Quite simple. There's discs what move the soil, and on this one and a lot of them we've got a leg which sort of breaks up the bottom to get a bit of drainage. Mainly try to do this because we're into mini tilling, which is minimum tillage, so we're not very deep, 2 to 3 inches deep. We just want to move the soil and stir the trash in, and that's what's left on the top, ready to make it easier for the drill. At the moment it's in transport mode. Obviously when we get it on the tractor, these all fold down. And another thing what this has got, you probably can't see it, it's got press wheels at the back which consolidate the soil to retain some moisture.
So once the field's been over with the discs, it's then time to drill, and we use one of these. It looks a little bit like a set of disc harrows with here, but Farmer Clive's going to tell us why it's different.
This is what we use when those dry conditions. It's a mini till drill, but it also cultivates. The discs at the front just move the soil, and this one's got discs where the coulters are to place the seed. It's a lot quicker. We can probably pull this about 10k, even more. Bigger the tractor, the faster you can go. So we can certainly get over some acreage with this sort of piece of equipment.
So through the year we need to keep the wheat fed, and we use something called fertilizer, and we put it on with one of these, which is a fertilizer spreader. The fertilizer goes in the hopper, then gets spread by the discs at the back here.
There's a control box in the tractor, so we can set the rate of what we want to put on per hectare, that it's flowed out there, and these discs can throw it 24 metres wide, which fits their tram lines.
To keep the crop healthy through the year as well as fertiliser, we have to use crop protection products.
And the thing what we use to put that on is a sprayer. And in this sprayer we put herbicides and fungicides, which is the products, mainly the products what we use.
The sprayer is tested every year, similar to an MOT on your car, to make sure it meets the standard and it works correctly. Inside the cab we have a control box where we can vary the product we're using, whether it be a herbicide to keep weed control down, or else a fungicide to keep disease out the crop. We don't put the chemicals on ourselves per se, or decide what chemicals we're to use. We have a qualified guy who comes in. He's called an agronomist, or he's known in the industry as a crop doctor. He prescribes what product we're going to use at that moment in time. He's fully up to date with all his qualifications to make sure the products are legal and they can be used on that crop.
We have to keep the records of what he gives us and record the date and time of when we sprayed, even the wind conditions and the weather conditions generally, because we're audited, and that makes sure that we're always crop assured.
So that means we've got traceability of the crop, what products we use, so you can trace it right the way back to when the finished product, right the way back to the start when it's a seed, and everything in between.
I keep buying British food, and I get to drive the sprayer.
So it's August, and it's the main event. This is literally what my whole year's been building up to with the wheat. It's harvest time, and we use one of these, a combine harvester.
Farmer Clive. This one has got tracks. The header is 35 foot wide, 10.5 metres. In wheat we might be doing anywhere between 50 to 60 tonne an hour, and I get to drive it.
Then you see loads of tractors and trailers floating about that time of year on the roads. That's because they're carting all the grain away from this machine back to the shed to be stored, where we can then sell it on later on in the year. How exciting. So that's how the wheat got to this stage, and how we're going to go on to harvest it in August.
Now the interesting thing about wheat is that it's an enclosed seed, which is inside like a shell, which we call chaff, and the combine has to separate the chaff from the grain. Now wheat makes lots of different things. It makes cereal products like Weetabix and whatever, biscuits and different things like that. Goes for animal feed, and even my wife, she makes Play-Doh with the flour for the grandchildren to play with.
But I grow the wheat to go on to be milled, to be made into flour, which then will go on to make bread. Now on my farm, I grow enough wheat to make 730,000 loaves of bread. That's enough to put 8 loaves of bread on each seat of Wembley Stadium in London.
Well, it's not social distancing then.
You do have social distancing with bread, I'm not 100% sure. But I hope you all enjoyed that anyway. Look at the other videos on today. All left to say from me is goodbye from me, and say goodbye Farmer Clive.
Goodbye Farmer Clive.